My name is Salim Malouf. I'm the Director of Marketing at Harvest ROI, a 3 times accredited Diamond HubSpot Solutions partner. And with me today are the amazing team at Commerce Hub from HubSpot. If you've been following our coverage of inbound announcements, you'll see that Commerce Hub got a nice facelift and big upgrade. So we're excited to have the HubSpot team with us here today to explain more about specifically how these upgrades came to be, the context around the cash flow acquisition, and how that is shaping the upcoming roadmap for Commerce Hub. With me today is Ethan Kopit from Commerce Hub. So Ethan Kopit is a product lead in Commerce Hub, and with me also is Adam Wainwright, Director of Product Management at Commerce Hub. Jack Coopersmith was supposed to join us. He's having some technical difficulties. As soon as he's ready, he will be joining us. But I want to open the floor to Ethan to start us off today.
So the kind of thesis behind Commerce Hub is pretty old. So, those of you who've been watching HubSpot for a long time, right, you know that HubSpot payments and Commerce Hub is relatively, it's not like a new thing in HubSpot, right? We've been around since I think like late 2021, early 2022. And what's funny is like the vision for Commerce Hub has kind of always been the same. And so this slide that Jack has on the screen here is like how we've always really been looking at the market, which is that when we talk to our customers about what happens after the closing process, right? Or kind of during the closing process, they say, well, I do my deal management in HubSpot, and then a bunch of other things happen and they happen elsewhere. And so they have this kind of fragmented, what we internally call a Franken system, right? For the process of actually closing the customer, going about the process of quoting and billing and getting paid and getting that data into your accounting system and being able to do financial reporting and revenue recognition reporting, right? So it's this system where even relatively simple businesses, smaller businesses are using 4 or 5 different systems to get this done. And many of those systems don't talk to each other, right? And so this is from the beginning been our thesis is like, we want to make this go away, right? In the same way, or not go away, but at least like we want to solve this problem for customers and, for folks who want to provide a unified system.
Welcome, Jack. Jack Coopersmith is the head of GTM for Commerce Hub. I'm glad you got your technical difficulties fixed, and we love to have you. This was supposed to be your section, so if Ethan doesn't mind, I would like to hand it back to you, Jack.
To kind of pick up where Ethan left off here, what we really want to gun towards is not just allowing for folks to use HubSpot to really generate their leads and then turn those leads into opportunities and manage those deals within HubSpot. We really want for folks to be able to do all of that within our platform, including that last mile of the sale, which is arguably the most important, I'd say, which is actually closing that deal and then being able to recognize that revenue. Now, while I never want to say never, I am confident in saying that HubSpot is not going to be building an accounting system or an ERP platform anytime soon. So that is one specific area, folks, where we're going to be leaning on our partner network and other integrators to build custom integrations. We've done some on the Xero and the QuickBooks side of things, but just so everyone knows, that is not an area where HubSpot is really thinking of investing at all. We're really focusing more on that revenue operating system, which is everything from the deal, closing that deal, billing for it, and then actually getting paid for it as well. And if we flip to the next slide, what you all will see is this actually does kind of tie in to the arc of Commerce Hub over time. So folks, I've been on this team for about 4 years now. I joined when we were in our private beta actually in 2021, and we launched a payments platform only in the US actually in early 2022. We then started to hear so much about folks saying, you know what, I understand that you have payment links. I understand that you have payable quotes as well, but I really need an invoice. I really need more depth in your billing platform. And so we started to dabble into billing in 2022. But as we went into 2023 and 2024, we invested a lot more on the billing and the subscription side of things. We also made an absolutely gigantic strategic move, folks, as we brought on the cash flow team to HubSpot. So in my 9 years at HubSpot, we've acquired fewer than I think 5 companies. This is not something that HubSpot does all the time. And that's mostly because of how we build our platform. We take a lot of pride in having a crafted, not a cobbled platform. And what that means is a consistent UI, a consistent experience for your team, and a consistent experience for your customers as well. And so about exactly 12 months ago now, we welcomed over the Cashflow team, and it's been awesome to have them join us and then become a part of the platform. We actually rebuilt Cashflow's product on the HubSpot stack entirely. We're going to give you folks a little bit of insight as to what to expect into the future, but ultimately, again, revenue operating system and being able to really represent that revenue in the right way within HubSpot that gives you the data, the flexibility, and the insights that you really need to grow your organization. So it's been an awesome ride. We are in playoff baseball season, folks, and while I'm disappointed the Red Sox are no longer in it, I'll use the baseball analogy. I think Commerce Hub is in the third, maybe the bottom of the third inning. We've done a lot of work, but we have a lot of ball left to play. Excited for you all to hear more from Ethan and Adam about that.
Yeah, thank you, Jack, for setting up the stage. And I welcome Ethan back to talk more about details in the new HubSpot CPQ.
Cool. So just so everybody knows, like Salim said, my name is Ethan. I'm basically the head of product for CPQ. So there's actually 5 CPQ teams, right? We have a team that owns the product library and a team that owns the quote building experience, and I oversee all of those. And we actually have 5 different product managers in there. And so the reason I bring that up is because HubSpot's making a huge investment in CPQ. It's like an area where there's like a lot of people working on it, a lot of people thinking thoughtfully about it. And that's a blend of the team from Cashflow and people who are kind of like longtime HubSpotters and trying to bring those 2 areas of expertise together. So when we think about, before we get into the nuts and bolts of CPQ, I like to start with just like, wrapping everything in the fact that this is ultimately still a HubSpot product. And so what HubSpot is selling is the customer platform, right? We are selling this like connected experience where we have all these different, tools and data stores that are for our customers to run their business efficiently. And so, yes, we're building a CPQ, but that CPQ is, to Jack's point, part of Commerce Hub, which is this revenue operating system of CPQ connected to billing, connected to payments. And then Commerce Hub is part of this customer platform, which is connected into, right, how we close our deals, how we generate our leads, how we do our reporting, how we serve our customers. And so all of this is knit together. And so it's important, for you to know when I'm talking about CPQ, that context, right? Which is CPQ isn't just a CPQ point solution. It's CPQ in the context of all of these other things that are designed to help the business operate more efficiently. All right. Let's keep going. So conventionally, a CPQ system, it's kind of an old word. It's actually one of the older categories of software. I think it's about 25 years old. I had ChatGPT give me like a breakdown of the history of CPQ for some of the new folks on our team. And CPQ stands for Configure, Price, Quote. It's quoting software, right? It's a type of software that is used to help sales reps more easily create offers, right, that they can put in front of customers and then get to the process of actually negotiating those offers and closing the deal. And the reason it's called CPQ, if we go to the next slide, is that at least, historically, CPQ systems have helped with 3 major areas. The first is helping sales reps configure the basket of products that's actually being sold. And for a lot of businesses today, that's not that complicated, but CPQ systems emerged in like telecommunications and manufacturing, right? Where if you have thousands or millions of SKUs that each have dependencies on each other, right? Selecting the right product mix is really difficult and it's important. So, again, historically, that's one of the things that CPQ has helped a lot with. On the pricing side, same thing, right? Like if you have a really complicated pricing structure, CPQs help you figure out what the price for that thing should actually be, right? And, again, sometimes it's a calculation, sometimes it's dependent on who this customer actually is. And then quoting, which is kind of the part that everyone thinks about, but again, historically has not actually been, the most important part of the CPQ. That's where we're actually generating like a polished professional, quote that is helping drive those negotiating conversations, that is being driven by all of those, configuration or pricing rules or things that are happening before.
I wanted to highlight a quick question. Is there a difference between CPQ for physical products versus digital subscriptions?
Yeah, it's a great question. And like, I'll answer, but I'm also curious, Adam, if you want to step in and answer this one. Here's my take. So Adam has worked in CPQ much longer than I am. I'm still relatively a greenhorn, but the fun part about that is I approach things with new eyes. So like in the past, right, CPQs were really only for folks who were in like manufacturing or telecommunications or have these really kind of complicated systems. So, at surface level, the answer is yes. But what's happened over the course of the past like 25 years is that more and more companies have said, well, I need software to help me generate quotes, right? Like maybe I'm not a manufacturing company, but I still need help, efficiently creating offers that for my customers that actually are compliant with my business rules, that look good, right? That, help the sales team spend less time quoting and more time actually talking to customers about what they need to purchase. And so what you're seeing is like newer generations of CPQs are not only for manufacturing or for telecommunications, but they're for many different businesses. So for example, like Deal Hub, right, really focuses, at least my perception is that they really focus on that like software market, because software, maybe it's not as hard to sell as a radar dish or something, but it's still really hard to sell. It's complicated, right? Like it's going to have, you might have usage-based pricing that's worked in there, right? You might have different pricing year over year. Even HubSpot internally, right? Like we built our own CPQ because we have thousands of sales reps, and it's not, our offering is not simple enough for folks to be able to kind of wing it or rely on tribal knowledge. So that's a very long way of saying, I think there is a difference between manufacturing and like CPQ for software or services, but increasingly it's blending together. It's just that the different businesses are going to use maybe different features of a CPQ more or less, would be my take. Adam, what do you think?
And go. Excellent. Yes, I think like just for what it's worth, team. When I think of CPQ, most of us that perhaps are familiar with the phrase, we think of manufacturing fairly legacy systems and perhaps building data centers or assembling custom tractors that have different fronts and backs and buckets and et cetera, et cetera. That's the difference there is the configurator. However, to Ethan's point, he nailed it. As time has gone on, it turns out our CPQ system can be at the heart of our revenue strategy, which now goes beyond just configuring a quote, but enables us to actually better capture and control our revenue strategy, the governance, can my quoting technology perhaps inform my seller that the cohort they're selling into perhaps has a margin of X, Y, and Z, and therefore can help me start to protect just exactly where I want to focus my attention if we're selling net new products. Maybe I can start to create approvals guardrails. So when you think about configuration in CPQ is a pretty broad concept. The difference between manufacturing and perhaps software is just what is the configuration requirement, and then also what does the data need to do if it goes downstream? Can I amend a net new deal? Can I upsell, cross-sell, prorate, co-term? Now we're in software land. And so the distinction might be configuring a quote, but ultimately the system should help you drive a strategy. And that's ultimately what we're really interested in helping our customers with here at HubSpot.
Yeah, I love that Adam is calling that out, because that is a great point, right? Like even if something is really complex to configure, but ultimately, like, when you're buying an industrial sewing machine, you've bought it, right? There's no, maybe you'd upgrade it, but like the upgrade is another single purchase, right? Software and services start to get into like changes and amendments and multi-year agreements that, might have different pricing for different usage, zones, right? That's where software starts to really get quite complicated. And there's that contract management element. In the interest of time, let's talk about HubSpot CPQ, because I think that one of the cool things for us is, even though HubSpot is a relatively old company, right? I think we were founded in like 2009 or 2010?
2006.
Oh my God, jeez. Anywho, but even though HubSpot's a relatively old company, we're actually pretty new to CPQ. As Jack said, we acquired Cashflow and brought in the team, and so we have the opportunity to build CPQ in a pretty new way. We kind of get the benefit of being able to learn from so many people who've worked on it before and have a kind of different take on it. I think that when I think about the product strategy for CPQ and like who we're building for and what we're trying to achieve for them, we're a little different than other CPQs, right? Because I think that for those legacy CPQs that we were talking about, right, like putting guardrails and kind of protecting the business was the primary value of the CPQ. And for us, that still is the value of the CPQ, right? You're still going to see us build those same features like approvals and, long-term things like rules engines and, bundles and price books, right? That's still there. But for us, we feel that the primary value to the business is actually helping them close faster. So we're going to build other features as well that enable our system to help our customers close faster. And that's really like our kind of North Star focus in terms of, are we delivering value? Like if we're helping you create an accurate quote, but it takes the sales rep 45 minutes and it's really painful, we're not doing our job effectively, right? Like I would argue we're not even delivering the minimum. It's just that the guardrails are there. It's like, well, so what, right? My sales reps aren't going to use it because it's not helping them close faster. And so for us, when we look at what's going to make HubSpot unique in the market, we really want to focus on helping sellers create accurate quotes quickly. We want those quotes to be beautiful. We want those quotes to enable the sales process to actually move faster. So for example, at Inbound, we launched our closing agent, which is an AI agent that sits on top of the quote and asks and answers questions about things like, hey, can I get a copy of your SOC 2 report? Or what's the warranty policy, right? Automating some of these tasks away from the sales rep so that they can have more efficiency. And then ultimately, if they get their question answered, the buyer can go ahead and just sign, right? And I think that that's the sort of features that we want to build in addition to the things that our customers will come to expect from the CPQ category. Another thing that makes us unique, right, is we're really prioritizing visibility, which, if you've been a HubSpot customer for a long time, I think that products and line items and quotes has not always delivered on this promise, right, of being deeply integrated. And I think that that's something we want to change. And we want to make sure that CPQ is really deeply integrated into the CRM. And we're really paying off that value of it's easy for you to see how the data that you generate can create other efficiencies for you in your business, or can be used so that you can learn and iterate on your process and make it better. And is available in our AI systems so that you can access it easily from LLMs, right? Like if you want, right? These are things that are important. And then of course the CPQ is also about protecting the business and creating control. So it's about making sure that sales reps are pricing things properly and the correct configuration of products is there. And that the right terminology is there on the quote, or is the MSA is available and looks proper. Of course, that's part of the value about HubSpot's CPQ. But I think that that's for us kind of table stakes. It's not what we think is going to kind of be our defining characteristic necessarily. And even then, when we think about a lot of these control features, we think about how do we use this to accelerate the sales rep, right? Like, is it about controlling the sales rep? No, it's about enabling the sales rep, right, to do the proper thing quickly. So that's what makes us unique. Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to talk to you guys about I like that, Caroline. This is the start of your next horror novel. Only if you work in tech. All right. So I'll just talk you guys through a little bit of the roadmap. Like, I think that, I'm sure Adam and Jack will come back and they'll show you guys a demo. And just so you know, by the way, if anyone would like a demo, you can talk to a sales rep at HubSpot. You can also start a trial in the product. You can also reach out to me. My name is Ethan, right? My email is ethan@hubspot.com, and I'll direct you to somebody. Basically, like when we look at what HubSpot CPQ supports right now, what we launched Inbound is really, it's not the end. It's like actually the very first step on a long journey. And I think that you guys are going to see CPQ get, again, it already has a huge amount of investment. I think you're going to see it just get better and better and deeper. And so, I'm excited for everybody to see that. So here's what we're working on right now. We have like the kind of 3 pillar features or, set families of features that we have right now we've started to make some improvements to our product library. So at Inbound, we shipped tiered pricing and we're going to go deeper on that. So when you look at this roadmap, you can see we're working on product bundles. You can see we're going to work on price books. You can see us working on line item field level permissions and, custom line item properties and calculated properties for line items. So we're really going deep on the product library. And we made our first step there, and you guys are going to see a lot more investments coming through there. And then the next kind of like family of features that we have is on the quote building side. And so at Inbound, we launched a new quote building experience, which is drag and drop, and it's WYSIWYG, much more similar to what you'd expect from HubSpot's content tools like email or forms or something like that. And that's an area where historically we've really struggled. We haven't had a very easy to use quote template building experience or quote building experience. And that's also AI enabled right out of the gate, which is cool for us because it's like, it means that we can, it's much easier for us to include AI features down the road. But there's more that we need to do for that quote building experience. So the big thing that we're working on is making that experience significantly more customizable. So thinking about things like making all the modules that are available out of the gate more customizable, You can already add your own rich text modules, but we want to support more module types, potentially even including custom coded modules, right? Which is really exciting to our partners. And let's see. Oh, and investing in things like line item table customization. That's a big thing that's being worked on right now. So there's a lot of kind of, customization work that's happening. And then also some kind of governance functionality. So right now, if you create a template, every part of that template is editable by sales reps when they're creating a quote, but that's not going to work for a lot of folks, right? They need those guardrails. And so we're going to be developing, like in the template builder, we're going to be allowing admins to, set permissions and say like, hey, this section is editable, this section is not editable, for example. Right. So that's another kind of area that's being worked on, right? Is that quote template building experience and that editing experience. And then the last thing that we have is the, approvals and kind of, rules engine layer. And that's another area that we're going to be investing in a lot. So we're going to be making it easier so right now, I'm actually really happy with our approvals system. It's 100x improvement over what was available in HubSpot previously. But we're going to be making it much easier to access because right now we basically piggyback on workflows, HubSpot workflows, as the system for putting in all those logic of like, well, this line item cannot be discounted over this amount, or, Salim, because he's a junior sales rep, none of like his quotes, anything over a 10% total discount amount has to be approved by Megan, right? But like Adam is a senior sales rep, so he has a higher discount threshold, right? You have to use workflows to configure all of this stuff, which is great. Like it does provide a lot of power, but it's hard for a lot of folks to access because it requires knowledge of workflows. And so we're going to be making it much easier to boot up like out of the box, for example, discount approval workflows and things like that. So we're going to be making that easier to access. So those are and then I guess there's kind of a fourth bucket, which is really, I already spoke to it a little bit in the product library, but also just investing in the connection of quotes into the platform and quotes and line items and products into the platform more. So you're going to see us have a quotes index page that is, like contacts or companies or deals where you can have your own advanced filters and save views, right? You're going to see us add custom properties for quotes. You're going to see us add a more customizable preview panel, the sidebar that kind of pops out when you view an object, right? That's not customizable for the quote object right now. It's going to become customizable. And so we really want, sometimes partners tell me that they feel like CPQ objects are not first class. And so we really want them to feel first class. And we also want to add more associations to other things, right? Like line items being associated to a custom object or quotes being associated to a custom object.
I do know that line items have felt like the black sheep of the family for a long time.
Yeah, and it'll be a road, right? Like we're not going to fix everything all at once, but I think that one thing we really want to get into is that drumbeat, right? Where everybody is seeing, okay, they said they're making these investments, and we can see those investments coming, week after week and month after month. Also, if anybody has any one of the things we're doing with some of our partners and some of our more, our beta customers right now is using them to prioritize some of those investments. So if folks have opinions on, areas and gaps that they want to see filled, let us know. So let me talk to you guys about how to buy CPQ. So in the past, Commerce Hub has not had any sort of seat associated with it. It's been, it's unlike Sales Hub or Service Hub, and that changed when we launched CPQ. So now we have Commerce Seats, Professional and Enterprise, and that's where the bulk of the CPQ functionality is associated. So, what we want people thinking is when they're buying Sales Hub, the folks that are on their team that need to quote would get a Commerce Hub seat. However, you get many of the benefits of Commerce Hub, even if only one person on your team has a Commerce Hub seat. So for example, things like tiered pricing or bundles or price books or approvals, right? A lot of these things are available to admins. Once you just have one person who has a paid seat, the folks who actually need paid seats assigned to them are the folks who are literally creating and sending quotes. And this has no impact on our billing or payment features. You don't need to use payments if you buy CPQ or Commerce Hub seats, right? And you don't need to use CPQ if you want to use billing and payments. Even though it's all Commerce Hub, these are just different ways of paying for the things that are in Commerce Hub. We have our legacy quoting system, which is our old quoting system that was part of Sales Hub. We've stopped selling that, but we still fully support it for those customers. and we're not trying to degrade the experience at all. So if anyone experiences a bug or they feel like that's happening, let us know and we'll fix it. These are two systems that are actually can be run in tandem. You don't, like, for example, have to stop using legacy quotes if you're using CPQ. The only difference is the folks who have a Commerce Hub seat assigned to them, when they go to create a quote, it will be in kind of that CPQ builder. If you don't have a seat assigned to you and you do have access to legacy quotes, then it'll be in the old system. And
a good question from David. What are the differences between the Pro and Enterprise seats?
That is a great question. So David, there's only really one difference right now, which is the advanced approvals. All of that stuff that, or many of the things I've been talking about, right? Like the new quote building experience, templates experience, the governance stuff, even a basic version of approvals, for the record, is available in Professional, but we put that kind of like more advanced version of approvals where it's like you can do kind of anything you want. That's in Enterprise. That's the main difference. Cool. And then it's good that this slide is here. So this is just kind of like reinforcing like how we think about CPQ versus like those legacy systems, right? So when you think about legacy CPQ, it's built to control reps. It's not really built to enable reps, right? Like controlling reps is the primary outcome that you're looking there. They're famous for like very rigid, very expensive implementations. And they also generally stop once the quote has been created. And so we're really looking to do something very different. So still having those governance features, still having those guardrails, but in a way that empowers reps to actually close more quickly, and dedicated features to help them close more quickly. Like, AI editing of quotes, or AI generation of quotes, or their closing agent, or, pricing automation, right? All of these things that are designed to help reps. I also think that, we want HubSpot to be differentiated in the market in terms of how easy it is to set up. Right? Because I think that that's like one of the differences between HubSpot and other CRMs. I want that to be the difference between HubSpot CPQ and other CPQs, right? Is that, you still have to go through some setup steps, but you can get it booted up in hours or days as opposed to weeks or months. And then the last piece is that we don't want to stop at quote generation. We're actually, we're going to be getting into contract management and some of the upgrades and downgrades and amendments and renewals, right? We're going to have dedicated tools for that, and we really want to kind of have that interconnected revenue operating system where it goes from quoting to billing to payments.
All right, I guess it's demo time.
I love the way David said it, by the way, like low floor for entry, high floor, high ceiling for capabilities. Freaking love that. That's an awesome way of saying it. I'm stealing that. I'll have to Venmo you, David, a few dollars for that one. All right, so I'm in HubSpot over here. I'm going to hop into the demo portal that we normally use. So you guys will have to watch a video from Adam because I think he's a really wonderful demoer. But when I start demoing CPQ, I usually like to start in the product library. So I mentioned that we kind of have like three kind of families of functionality in CPQ. So this first one is the product library, right? Because you have to actually get your product offering into HubSpot. Whether you want to use quotes or deals or whatever. So we actually rebuilt our product builder in HubSpot. So we now have a full page product builder, and then flat pricing is what we've always supported and still available to everybody, by the way. And then what we've added as part of the CPQ launch is tiered pricing. So you can see that we now have the ability to create products that actually auto-calculate prices based on tiers of the quantities that are being purchased. And then you could imagine us adding here, right, like things like bundles and usage-based pricing and ramped pricing, right? So we created all this new real estate to add that in. And so we have three different types of tiered pricing. So volume-based, stair-step, and graduated. Volume-based is usually used to say, hey, the more you buy, the better price you're going to get, right? So for example, if you buy 0 to 199 units, the price is $1 per unit. But if you buy 100 to, here I'll add a tier, 100 to 199, the price is $85. And the more you buy, the better price you get on the whole lot, right? Graduated is kind of the sister to that, which is that you still get potentially a better price as you climb up. You can also charge more, by the way. That's just uncommon for people to do that. Like you could say, hey, this is $1.10, for example. But in graduated, it's like the more you buy, you pay less, but you pay less, as you climb up the ladder on the lot. So for example, you're still going to pay $1 on 0 to 99, but 400 to 199, you're going to pay 85 cents. So you're like getting a better price, but only on the lots that you actually climb up. And then we have what's called stair step, where you actually just set a price for the entire tier. So you'd say, hey, if you buy 0 to 99 units, you're going to pay me $150. Whereas if you buy, 100 to 199, you're going to pay me $250, right? So it's not price per unit, it's the price for the whole tier. And then what happens for reps is that, and I'll show you guys this in the builder, but like as they go through the process of adding these line items from this product to quotes, all they have to do is put in the quantity and the prices are automatically calculated for them. So there's no need to reference like a spreadsheet or something like that. This form, by the way, is also customizable. So you can add in more properties. And you can have archived kind of like active and inactive products as well, which is a new feature we rolled out as part of CPQ. Cool.
If you can explain a little bit difference between active and inactive.
Yeah, so active and inactive is basically, are they usable when creating things like, deals or quotes or invoices, right? So you guys can see that all these products here are active, but like if I was to make this product inactive, what that's going to mean is if I go to actually create a quote, right, this won't be available to use as an inactive product. And you might say, well, why not just like delete the product? And the answer is, well, you've already sold it in the past, right? And you might have line items that are associated with it. And so when you do your reporting, we still want you to have access to all that information and kind of have like a log of the things that are in the past. You still can delete them if you want, but we just have this opportunity now to mark them as inactive. And you could bring them back, right? Like can
you adjust this active status using workflows?
That's a good question. And the honest answer is I don't know, but I will figure that out and I will get back to you guys. You definitely can do it via API. So like one of the ways I can imagine people using this status is for things that are in stock and out of stock, for example. But I don't know if you can do it via workflows. It's a great question. And if you can't,
if someone is comfortable in custom coded actions in Data Hub, they could definitely do it now, but we'll see if they can do it through the UI.
Yeah, and also you don't even need necessarily like Data Hub, right? You could just hit the APIs themselves. So you could use workflows and custom coded actions. You could also just have a system that lives somewhere, right? And like a Zapier kind of sort of thing, right? That just executes API actions.
Sounds good.
Cool. All right. So now I want to show you guys the quote building experience. And so we talked about the product library. Let's talk about the quote building experience. So if folks have experience with the old quote builder, this is going to feel really new. First of all, I guess I'll just show you guys. These are all the templates that are in the portal. So we're actually going to move these to settings because we're going to be creating a real index page here that's more similar to like contacts, companies, and deals. But you can create as many templates as you want, and I'll show you guys the creation of a quote, but the template building experience is almost the same. It's just that you're creating a template, not a quote, right? So actually, let's create a quote from a deal. It's more common. You can create a quote from many places, like from a contact or company, but most folks create them from deals. So
it's good to at least have a deal to support that quote. Otherwise, you're kind of skipping steps, right?
Yeah, and again, that's like okay if that's what you want to do, but you're going to just like miss out on a lot of that, kind of more fundamental reporting that you're going to be able to get. All right, so let's go make a quote here. I'm not sure why it's taking so long. Cool. So this is our new quote builder. Like I said, it's more similar to like the HubSpot email or forms experience, right? And you can see over here that, so this is a quote, right? It's not a template, but even on the quote, I can do things like add sections, if I wanted to add sections. And these sections that you can add, right? The only sections we support adding right now are rich text sections. And so you can see I can do a lot here, right? I can do personalization tokens. I can do snippets. I can do, images. I can do links. I can do videos, right? We got a video here. So there's a lot that you can do here. And then one of the new changes as well is you can also add attachments. And so an attachment could be signable, right? Like you can see here that we have a master service agreement, right? I might say, hey, in this section, I've got this PDF, and that's going to be actually in the signing envelope when somebody goes to sign this quote. But you could also have something like, for example, a timeline doc that isn't signable. It's just kind of an FYI sort of situation, right? And that might not be signable, and that's totally okay. And you can move things around on the quote, right? You can say like, hey, like I want to, move these sections around. We now support inline editing for line items. So like I could say, hey, this is, I can say plus or something here, right? And that's actually
will that reflect on the line items themselves in the CRM, or is it just an edit here on the quote?
No, that's exactly right. So you're actually editing the CRM object when you're doing this. You're not just editing the PDF version or something like that. But it's on the CRM version of the line item, not the product, right? Because the line item is the instance of the product. And then you guys can see that in this case, this deal had tiered pricing, right? And so you can see that like this is how the pricing schedule breaks out for those tiers. But let's go ahead and change that and say, hey, I don't want to have 1, I want to have 4,000, right? And that's going to recalculate my net price, and it's going to show me, right, that it's showing me how it changes that unit price as we climb up the ladder. And actually, while I'm here, let's do this. So I mentioned that the new builder works with AI out of the box. So here's what I mean is like, okay, I have quantity 4,000 on this full workflow customization thing. I can say reduce quantity to 1 for full workflow line item, and I'm not spoon feeding it here, right? Like a human.
Yeah,
like, what do you mean by that, right?
Yeah, that you're very confident in the product to be willing to do this demo live. So, kudos.
No worries. Well, there you go. Now, could it be faster? Yes, it could be faster. We're working on that, but it does work, right? And I could also say something like, customer is looking for a 20% discount across the board. Please update all line items, right? So again, I'm not spoon feeding you here, right? That's a very human piece of language. And maybe it won't work. We'll see, right? But it does work, right? It added a 20% discount across the board. And I'm super fired up about this because this is a little bit of an aside, but for me, I've always been really terrified of opening up quote creation on mobile, because creating a quote on a mobile experience, I mean, you guys can imagine like doing inline editing of line items on a tiny mobile screen is going to be really hard. But you can imagine this AI, if it's really good, and I think it is pretty good. I'm sure folks will find edge cases and will fix them, but it really does open up a whole new world of what's possible. It also allows us to start learning our way into things like, for example, you asking the AI to help you maximize your margin while keeping your commission the same, right? Yeah. So it allows us to do more advanced use cases than just simple edits.
Ryan asks if there's an undo button for the AI actions.
There is an undo button. There we go. Unapplied.
Awesome.
It's also a great way to make bulk changes, right? So like in the kind of previous world, right, you'd be like select, like, make this, add a discount to everything. But this is a much faster way of doing the same thing. And while we're talking about AI, I just want to show you guys our closing agent. So I mentioned that like we not only want to invest in kind of those traditional CPQ features, but also things that help people close faster. Here's an example, right? I mean, this is our demo one. It's not very complicated, but you can see that you as the person creating the closing agent can actually program in questions that folks might have. And then also you can just, ask any questions you want. And what that agent has access to is the quote itself, information that's associated to the quote in the CRM, and then also documentation. It's a lot like our customer agent, right? It has access to the documentation that you've provided it that it can look at, right? So even though this warranty terms is not included in this quote, it's included in those associated docs. And so that's why the agent knows to go do that.
Yeah. I have a question. Does this agent have kind of the same types of guardrails that customer agent has, where when there's a murky question or gray area that it could not answer confidently, that it does hand off to a human or just refuses to answer? Are there any guardrails like that?
I don't think we have a SOC 2 report in this instance. So let's see. My guess, the short answer is yes. I know that the team is also working on helping it book meetings. I don't know if it's capable of that yet, but yeah, it'll definitely hand off to a human. And then what will actually happen is the human will get, a notification that there's, that
awesome. That
there's someone who needs to be spoken with.
It just happened. So awesome to see that.
Cool. Oh, there's Adam. There you go. Adam with us from the grave. for our demo. Anywho, well, I don't want to spend too much time here, but I do want to show you guys one other thing here, and I'll show you how to configure these approvals in a second. But I want to show you the rep experience of triggering approvals. So you can see that right now this quote does not require any approval, and that's why this panel is kind of quiet. However, if I do something like say discount all lines 80%, that should, if I remember this portal correctly, trigger approval.
80% discounts are definitely something that you want someone to approve before they go out.
That's true. Although we may not have set them up in this portal. We may not have. Darn. This is why I wanted Adam to do it. But basically what would happen, and I'll show you guys how to set up the approvals in a second, is that this would have said, hey, this quote does require approval. And then it would actually show you like, hey, these line items have this amount of discount. That's the overall discount on the quote is higher than X amount. And that's all kind of programmed in at the approvals level. So the reps can actually see that the quote requires approval. And then if they're unable to share it, right, it says request for approval, and they can add a little message, and then it'll go out and contact the approver. So what we've done is like kind of blend a little bit of that rules engine and that approvals functionality together. And we're actually showing the rep what approval rules they're violating so that they don't, because the goal isn't to get them to send the quote out for approval, right? It's to not get the quote, to not do that, right? So we want them to actually change the quote so that it doesn't go out for approval. And let's go back for a second here. I'll show you guys the approvals functionality. Let's see, quotes. So you can see like we have 3 options for approvals: no approvals, what we call standard approvals. This, I think it was David who asked it, but around the differentiation between Pro and Enterprise. This is the main difference: is standard approvals, which are available in Pro. And what that does is basically, it's kind of like what we offer in the old quoting software. It's just better, which is you can say, hey, all of the quotes need to be approved, and then you can specify a number of approvers, and you can say, I want all of my quotes approved by all of these people, or all of my quotes approved by any of these people. And so it's kind of an entry point into approvals for folks who don't have really kind of complex configurations. And then when you get into advanced approvals, that's where we start to shift you over into this workflow environment. And so this is where you can see, you can construct basically whatever logic you want, because the quote approval workflow has access to the quote object itself, and then any objects it is associated to. So the contacts, the companies, the deals, the line items, right? And so you can branch this infinitely, right? And you can set up discount approval workflows and geographic approval workflows and amount approval workflows. Those are some of the most common that we get, and those can be by team. Again, like Salim and Megan's quotes get approved by Ethan, whereas somebody else's quotes get approved by somebody else. And then we also support sequential approvals as well, right? Salim's quote must be approved by Megan and then by Ethan, right? So this is how you go about the process of configuring these approvals. And this is one of the things we want to make easier, because again, this does require a lot of pretty in-depth knowledge of workflows. And so there's a lot of power, but it's not very easy to use.
And again, reiterating this, this is included in the enterprise tier.
What you're looking at right now is the enterprise tier, but like I said, there is an approvals offering in Pro. It's just much simpler, right? It's all of your quotes need to be approved, and then you can choose who those approvers are, either any of them or all of them.
Right.
Cool. Let's see, what else should we talk about here? I'm worried that I missed something. And then the quote object is available in reporting. It's available in automation, right? So you could say, hey, once a quote gets accepted, go kick off onboarding, right? You can report on, which reps have different quotes in different states, who are kind of your slowest approvers, right? So all of that is available in our reporting tool. We actually have some out of the box reporting, but we'll kind of skip that for right now. Any other questions?
Do the quote objects behave like standard objects?
They should, like you should, at least in reporting, right? In automation, they're just CRM objects. So you have access to all of their properties. They, trigger properly. And if there are any gaps, let us know. We actively want to fill them.
Sounds good. Ethan, thank you so much for being able to soldier on and help us keep this event going. For anyone who has any questions, please feel free to reach out to Ethan, to Jack, or to Adam. Their emails are right here. thank you so much for being with us today. And thank you for bearing with us through our technical difficulties. Hopefully, when you join us next time in our next webinar, where we'll be talking with our partners at AirCall, and they'll be explaining more about their telephony solutions and how that could benefit you. Thank you again for being with us, Ethan, and hope you have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thanks for coming, everybody.